We are the ministry of the real truth, and today we are looking into or at the said original ancient very old language spoken by the original Hebrews or Israelites. And also we may take a look at the original ancient very old Tab Esrit, which is its sister language, the square script, and the said original ancient very old sacred scribal language. God spoke to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, the Lisana Tika Sapreya, translated by the native born Aramaic speaking translator Victor N. Alexander from Mesopotamia, Syria. Because we have noticed, or it's come to our attention, that two or more claimants are stating that they are the descendants of those original peoples, the Hebrews and the Israelites. They are the modern descendants of the Israelites, Jacob's or Jacob's descendants. Now, who is right in their claims? Who can be proven beyond any doubt to be the one true Hebrews or Israelites with the correct manuscripts, texts, scriptures translated from the original language correctly, used and spoken, perhaps written today, or in a modern vernacular, a modern dialect? Who is telling the truth? And who is well misinformed or lying? Totally lying. Saying that they are the original Hebrews, Israelites or Jews when they are not. We have to do the research and bring the established facts, the evidence that proves itself evident, etc. to all, so then you all can decide who's telling the truth and who's lying, who's totally misinformed, and who is really, or who are really, the original descendants of the original peoples, the Hebrews, the Israelites and the Jews. Again, one is stating that they are, and the other is stating that they are. So if there's two, logic and common sense states two can't be the one. But if two has merged as one originally, then there's a difference, isn't there? Let us set about to prove it by bringing the established facts, the evidence, and so forth to all. Please keep in mind, in the era of the said original Hebrews or Israelites or Jews, well, we'll concentrate on the Hebrews first, okay? The earth may have been one giant landmass with no country names as we know them today, instead having territories or zones, names from the tribes of people who occupied or invaded and occupied certain Near Eastern geographical locations. There were no great seas. No great seas were yet formed to divide landmass, as the tectonic plates had not yet rubbed up against each other, causing massive earthquakes, which in turn caused volcanic eruptions, leading to lava flowing, creating thick layers of crust, etc. So perhaps the entire Near East may have been Africa, and Africa, the entire Near East. Israel may have been part of Africa, or Africa part of Israel. Okay, because in that day, as we stated, they don't have any names, country names as we know them. They just had territories with certain people of certain tribes with certain names residing there. So yeah, keep in mind it was probably just one massive landmass or mass of land. And later, much later, at another millennium, wise, people were given names by certain peoples of a certain civilization, i.e. the ancient Hellenes, or Greeks, or even Romans, who gave those invaded regions names in accordance with the people found occupying them, who spoke a certain language that their long dead forefathers spoke. Example, the Aramaeans were so named as they were said to have continued the language spoken by their forefather Aram, as seen in the book of Genesis, the Genesis family list, and the list of descendants of Noah, etc. An end prefix or suffix was added at some point in time, so it became known as Aramaic. It's a Greek loanword, the ik or the ear on the end of a word, like Aramaic or Asia or Persia or Asiatic. The prefix meant that, or the suffix meant that the people discovered occupying these particular regions spoke a certain language, so they possessed it. It belonged to them. They were the possessors of it. Or another example is like the Asians, the Chinese today, etc. They had a language, they possessed it, therefore it was theirs. Belonged to them. So aptly named and known as Asiatics. Today we say the Chinese are Asians, who way back in time dwelt in the Asian portions or provinces of Europe, known as China, Japan and Korea, etc. to us today. So let's look back into the two peoples claiming to be descendants, the true descendants of the original ancient Hebrews, Israelites, etc. We found a few websites with claims to fame in regard to the original ancient, very old Hebrews, Israelites. And others who claim African Hebrew Israelite origins. Keep in mind that one or both may have lost their origin identity, therefore are trying to fill a void created by someone else who stripped it off them, right? Assimilating some other people's origins, culture, history, religion, language and traditions and customs, and totally fabricating all details. You, the viewer, or the listener, watcher of this video, must decide who truly is who they claim to be via the facts, the established facts, the evidence that proves itself evident, the original ancient, very old biblical manuscript scriptures, texts of the Tab Asheret, the Tab Ivri, the Tab Asheret, which is the hand-copied manuscripts by scribes and monks in Urhai, now Edessa, now modern Turkey, which has been said to be the sister language of the original ancient, very old Tab Ivri or Hebrew, without the added vowels to the consonants, added vowel points, etc., and modifications, if any, of the Masoretic text or anything similar. As the Tab Asheret and Tab Ivri and also the Tab Hotep were originally sister languages with the same words, same meanings, until vowels, vowel points, etc. were later added to these consonants. So it changed the structure of the language, but it also changed the meaning of the words. The words were originally similar. The words were originally the same, with the same meanings, but when these vowels and these points were added, etc., etc., they had similar words with different meanings. And here's an example. In the original ancient, very old Tab Asheret Brita, or Genesis in English, there is a word, Yuma, Y-U-M-A, which in the original ancient, very old Tab Asheret or Aramaic, when translated into the nearest English equivalent, means immeasurable or unfathomable period, era, age, eon, or day, with a capital D. Because the Aramaic Israelite day was very different to the day that we are familiar with today. And yet also in the Hebrew, there's the word yom in the Hebrew, which means day with a little d. Okay? The other one has a big D. And it's basically related to the days and our day of the week as we know it. in the West. Today's Israel, Hebrew, today's language in Israel is Israeli Hebrew, and it is said to be a revised version from the 1900s, revised in the 1900s, and is the Canaanite or Ugaritic language of the biblical Canaanites, etc., who were pagans who worshipped idols like El, Baal, etc., and the Hebrews who entered the land, they occupied it and adopted and adapted their culture, their customs, their religion, their language, etc., scripted the true name of God, which is El, E-I-L, wrongly. They scripted it as El, E-L, the God, Swarji, of thunder, of the pagans, the Canaanites, the Ugaritic. And they use it today as in the word Elohim. The is an article. It's the article the. God with capital G, or gods, small g. Okay, one of the two factions that claim to be the true descendants of the original Hebrew and Israelites are the US and UK and worldwide Hebrew Israelites. Are the Hebrew Israelites truly the Hebrew Israelites? They claim to be the original Hebrews, original Israelites, and that the others, these Jews and Israel, etc., are not Israelites, they're not Hebrew Israelites, they're fakes. These US factions of this, or groups of this Hebrew Israelites, use many seemingly Hebrew language words with their supposed syntaxes, meanings, names of Almighty God, and which they give themselves titles. They might call themselves Yahushua ben Asher Yahuwah or something like that, just an example. But we see there are the Jews of Israel, these Israeli Jews. It's Jews in Israel, speaking this Israeli Hebrew, of various Jewish factions. There's quite a few of them. For example, the Hasid, the Ashkenazi, etc., who speak varied Hebrew tongues, Yiddish, etc. And they also have people who perform various, often different practices. And the reverence to the Shekinah at the said remaining wall of the ancient temple was once reported that it was destroyed, or as you know it, the Wailing Wall. These US and UK Hebrew Israelites do not follow suit. They don't do the same things in other Jewish traditions or traditional practices. So, as stated by a Jewish rabbi who accompanied timeline history Jovovici all over Europe looking for the supposed 10 lost tribes of Israel, and they found them in China, India, etc. This Jewish rabbi from Israel stated that all these people that they came across, like these Chinese or Indian people, right? See, they're supposed to be claiming that they were, as far as they knew, they were descendants of the original Israel. He stated also they all did the Jewish traditions that he practiced in Israel, right? Things that he did, his people did. And he was amazed because there was no one around to show them what they do in Israel, but they did exactly what he and his people, the Jews, the people in Israel do. Okay? Custom-wise, tradition-wise. And they made matzvah, Jewish bread, etc. And he said, who the heck taught them that? They must be descendants of the original house of Israel. They must be Israelites, right? Descendants of the Israelites. Okay? So to him, the Jewish rabbi, they proved that they had to be descendants of the original house of Israel, or Israelites. as no one had taught them these traditional customs that we already mentioned, right? Okay. But some US Hebrew Israelites have openly stated, they don't do the same as those Jews. Why? Because they believe them to be fakes. They're not the real Jews. Okay, not real Jews, as they are, the US Hebrew Israelites. They're not Hebrews or Israelites, as all were black according to them. Okay, it came from Africa and all this sort of stuff. They, the US Hebrew Israelites, claim to know and speak the Hebrew. Yet, apart from their weird names they give themselves, okay, like Yeshua ben Yahushua, whatever, right? And the names they attribute to God, like this example only, we're not sure if these are the exact words, but it's very similar. We've seen on live debate, Sarnetta TV, etc., right? And seen them when they're preaching up there on the street in America. Yahuwah, Yahuwashi, etc. So, coming across a highly qualified translator, Dr. James D. Francisco. Okay, where are we? Okay, we'll show you the comment, because we are thinking, well, that's made up. They're making it up, right? So we went to his video. We'll leave a link to it down the bottom so you can see the comments that we made right at the bottom of the page. Okay. The Aramaic and idioms in the Bible. James De Francisco, PhD. He has 2 PhDs in Aramaic and Hebrew. We're not too sure about the Syriac, but we questioned him on it, and he knows. He's met and talked with the Rabbi Tobias Singer. He says Tobias Singer can't stand the New Testament Gospels. He can't stand them to the point where he really dislikes them, and he can't understand the Eastern Peshitta, Syriac Peshitta, etc. He can't get it around his head, right? He just can't get it, understand it. Okay? And he's met Andrew Gabriel Roth, the translator of the Eastern Syriac Peshitta from the Apostolic Church of the East, and they've both done a video together. Okay, Andrew's a Messianic Jew, etc., etc. He has his own ideas, so he's probably trying to mix the Messianic Jew concept with the Syriac, etc., etc. This is what we've found. Okay, so they've both met each other, and he's also met the translator Victor Alexander, and we questioned him on his translations, and he's like, yeah, this guy here supposedly translated, when we asked, from the Tab Asheret. Okay, we believe, no, he's translated from the modern Aramaic, the Syriac Peshitta, etc., to his students. That's what he's written in the comments down below here. Okay, so our comment is right at the bottom. Okay, and we asked him, and he got a bit upset. He says, no, not playing your games. Okay, but then he eventually relented. Okay, he says, oh, I won't put up with your games and all this sort of stuff. And we said, look, we're just trying to find an answer to the question. Okay, simple as. Okay, then he's calmed down, and then he replied, because we said, sorry, we're not playing games. These Hebrew Israelites, these people, make the claim that this particular name, Yahuwashi Washi or Yahweh Washi Washi, is in the Hebrew language, and we're simply trying to verify it's false. So I'm asking him, and yeah, he did confirm it, so we thanked him for it. And here he's put, yeah, you are correct. In ancient Hebrew, the sacred name would be transliterated YHWH with no vowels. We do not know the pronunciation. It is known that the first syllable is Yah. This comes across in Aramaic as Maya, Lord Yah. There's a lot of BS on the internet, and he's learned over the years to treat those who perpetuate it with swift responses before deleting them altogether from his life. They will steal your time and time of his life. Be well. We did have another comment, but we can't seem to find it here, where he actually says in the comments, what the hell is this? This Yahoo Washi Washi stuff. Okay? It's not in the Hebrew. That's not Hebrew. What are they playing at? Okay? And he's in agreement with us. Yeah. It's not in the ancient Hebrew. Okay? It's not in the Aramaic or the Syriac or the Hebrew. They're making it up. Okay, so he thought, well, okay, they're making it up. So they must be using these fancy names, Yahoo Washi Ben Asher Washi Washi whatever, just an example, yeah, to make themselves look and sound more knowledgeable, like they know something, okay, or to be cool, okay. And they're claiming that they know the Hebrew language correctly. You're like, that can't be right. If this is a mistake, like Yahoo, Washi, whatever, it's not even in the Hebrew. What else are they saying that's not in the Hebrew? They're making it up. Okay? So, yeah. Quoting that comment we couldn't find, under his video we asked him if the US Hebrew Israelites are actually speaking Hebrew, giving him an example to work with, the names that they were associating to God, i.e. Yahoo, Washi, whatever, Yahusha, etc. Examples. These are examples only because we can't remember the exact words, but we've heard them on the live debates on Sarnia TV, etc. Them saying it, right? He, after getting upset over a minor dislike, distaste, resentment, told us, what the hell is that? That's not Hebrew. Wow, it blew our brains. So we pondered long on this and thought, are they faking it? Speaking Hebrew, making it up as they go along? Give God non-Hebrew Aramaic fancy names. You know, they're taking it from here, taking it from there, mixing it, merging it, right? And they're making these claims to make themselves appear knowledgeable or in the know or look cool. Yeah? But we understand and sympathize with them as many of our countrymen got into the Bob Marley movement and became Rastafarians, trying to convince us of their ideals, the Rasta ideals they embraced, etc. But the difference with these Afro-Americans is they have had their origins stripped from them, so they don't know. They're trying to find where they originated from. Okay? That's what they're trying to find. They're trying to find their identity. So again, we sympathise with them. Because their ancestors, at the hands of horrid slave traders, deprived them of all of that. So they've lost, with these descendants, these sons and daughters of those slaves, former slaves, lost their identity. Again, so they're trying to find it, reclaim it, and then revive it, and live it. But they being of African origins, as we've seen, the video success of the street talking, debating, and all that sort of stuff, they state it as facts that they're of African origins. Or, like Captain Zariak of the US Hebrew Israelites, he openly said to Shaka Amos, he's a Kemet scholar, adherent, whatever, that he was not of African ancestry. Okay? And then they had this thing saying, hey man, you're the same colour as me. We're both of African descendancy. And this Captain Zariak said, no, we're not. Me and this South American guy over here, or whatever he was, with the pale white skin are. Okay? It's like, what the hell? We're both the same damn colour. We're of African descent. No. This guy over here's my brother. Well, that sort of stuff. So we now believe that they are faking it. All of what they are trying to convince people of. Often sects or divisions of this cult, this faction, cuss, use racial slurs, they threaten, abuse others, especially Catholic college boys, verbally, of other races, religions, etc. We have noticed of late from many of their influencers or leaders, or affiliates even, gurus or teachers, many claim that it all began in Africa 3,000 years ago, that they speak Hebrew, the correct original ancient Aramaic, Hebrew, or Tab Ashrid or Ivri. Yet all their information appears through visual evidence, established facts, and so forth to be in error or completely false. Even of late, Rabbi Reuven, you may have seen that YouTube video, spoke out against them, saying they don't know what the hell they're talking about. They don't know the Hebrew. They don't speak it correctly. They are fakers. Okay, so with the evidence that we now present, we believe they are a cult totally faking it. Okay, here is the evidence. Okay, we've given you that comment there from that supposed, that verified professor featured in this video. James DeFrancisco, with PhD with 2 doctorates in the Aramaic and the Hebrew, probably the Syriac. We're not sure on that one. These are the modern vernaculars, right? They're not the original ancient long dead Tav Asheret or Tav Ivri, the Aramaic or the Hebrew. We've come to realise that. So we're looking at, again, these websites. Okay, these claims here that they are the original etc., the original Hebrew Israelites and all this sort of stuff. Okay, this is one person in particular. He's like probably you could say he's an influencer that the Hebrew Israelites etc. will go, oh yeah, this guy's great. Yeah, we'll incorporate what he says. He can be our leader. He'll be our teacher. All that sort of stuff, right? You know, variants like that. There's many of them out there. Okay, and then there's this one here, Lekha. Okay, which that person probably suggested to go look at, or we found it, and it's probably the Jewish version of it, right? The Hebrew, the Israelite version, according to the Jews. Okay? And then we went to this other one where it was suggested, okay, by this group, and it just doesn't match. Okay, they're saying this is the U language, like as you and sheep, female sheep, or this sort of stuff, or the Uraham, or what's the other word they use here? Eve, right? And all this sort of stuff, saying it's all this and it's all that when it's incorrect. We believe it to be incorrect. So, we had a look at the original ancient Asherit, the Lishana Atika Sapraya, the sacred scribal language spoken by God to Adam and Eve in the garden, and the Brita in the Aramaic, or Genesis 9, verse or the verses here where it's got the genealogy, the descendants of Noah, right? His three sons that come out of the ark. Okay, we've covered that. It was Shem, Ham, because the K is silent, as in the Egyptian word Kim. Okay, it's actually Hem or Ham and Japheth. Okay, and this Ham became the father of Canaan, and then his father got drunk after he planted a vineyard. Okay, made some wine and got wasted and lay in his tent naked. His son went in. Oh, he's naked. Didn't cover him. Just walked in and out. Saw his everything's right, and he went and told his brothers. And then when the father awoke, he cursed him. Okay, it was Noah who cursed him, not God. He cursed his son, his grandson, the son of his son. Right, that he and his brothers and sisters would be servants to their uncles. Okay, the brothers of Ham. Okay. And then we went further down to Genesis 10, where it has the records. Okay, the birth records of the children of Noah, his three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, to whom was born children after the flood. Okay, and these are the children of Japheth. They are actually the names of their children, who became, when they branched out, they became villages or cities, small cities, and they were named after those who founded them. Okay, and the children of Gomer were Ashkenaz, so they'd be the Ashkenazis. They're descendants of Ashkenaz, etc., etc. And then these separated from those that became the isle of the nations and languages, etc. And there's the children of Ham, which were Cush with the sea, Mizraim, which is Egypt, Put, and Canaan. Okay, so this is the start. Ham is the start of the ancient Kemites, but it's actually Hamites or Hamites, okay, because you don't pronounce the K in the Egyptian word, which is pretty much the same, except it might just have a slight difference with an E there instead. Okay, so that's the children of Cush from Mesopotamia, and then they probably eventually migrated to Africa, or unless Africa was still a landmass, giant landmass, so Africa was part of Israel, or Israel was part of Africa, yeah, Israel today, until these tectonic plates shifted, of course, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and then created divides, the land separated, and then these waters rushed in there and created these seas. So there's your division there, right? So now Africa is way separate, it's on the other side, away from Israel. But as this guy, Pan-African, said on his video, when he was looking at the tour location of the Israelis, he says, hey, they're saying this and that, tectonic plates, the shift, the earthquake, all this and stuff, but they're denying it. and he was doing a documentary basically on that, giving the evidence. So yeah, okay, and showing the maps, etc. So we thought, yeah, okay, so that's probably what happened. It hadn't yet divided; it was just one giant landmass. Okay, and people were just basically living in those geographical locations. Maybe they were called the Aramaeans. They spoke the language of their forefather Aram, as the Bible says, or whatever, right? They're the descendants of Aram. So these Hellenes, or these Greeks, invaded those areas and said, well, these people that are there speak a certain language, the language of their forefather Aram, because that's what they said, they admitted, right? They told them. So they says, okay, and they used a Greek loanword, ik, or ear on the end of it, meaning that that language belonged or was possessed by those particular people in that particular region. Okay? So when they go back to Greece or whatever, they say, hey, where'd you go? Oh, we went over here and we invaded here and all this sort of stuff. Started up over here. Oh, okay. Did you meet anybody there? Yeah, these people that spoke this language. Or what language is that? Oh, they said they were ancestors of Aram, and they spoke this language, and they says, oh, it's the language of our forefather. We've been speaking it ever since, over the centuries or whatever. So, yeah, the Greek says, oh, they're Aramaeans. Okay, we went somewhere else. Oh, who's these? Oh, who did you meet over there? Oh, these Chinese, right? Well, these different-looking people, and we called them Asiatics. Oh, why is that? Oh, because they spoke this certain language, this Asian language, whatever. So it belonged to them, etc. So we called them Asians, right? Or Asia, whatever, and it carried on like that. Yeah. So, yeah, eventually they became, down the footnotes, they became the Germans, the Anglos, the Medes, and the Greeks, and Mithraim was the Egyptians. Okay, and then Iraq possibly came from the name is Iraq, right? But now there's Muslims or whatever living there. Okay, still some Syrians, etc. living there. Okay, and then we covered that these people, that these ones here say were Eba, etc. They're right there, but wrong probably when it comes to this Urver or Urvo, coming from East Africa, West Africa, and all this sort of stuff. Okay, when it says here in the Brito or the original Genesis, okay, that this older brother had these children, and they became the father of the children of passage, or the Hebrews. Okay, so they may not necessarily have been African black, okay, as these US Hebrew Israelites like to claim. Okay, you don't know exactly what colour the Noah was and the three sons came out, when they came out of the ark, or their wives. You don't know what colour they were. They could have been pale skin, light tanned. They could have been dark, had a dark hue because the sun's always beating down on them. But they're not necessarily African black, as they claim, right? There is like scientific evidence of the skin. Say if you're a pale person and you went to a hot area, your skin's got to evolve. It's got to get used to that heat. So it starts doing that, and you get like a maybe red, to start off with, and it goes light brown and darker hue. Depends on how long you stay in that hot geographical location. Okay. So not saying exactly that they were, black, or they were white, or anything like that. Yeah, have a look at the old wall reliefs. They had that sort of plaited beads and all that sort of stuff on those carvings, right? It may have just been an artist's impression. They may have had fake beads. They may have spent a lot of time plaiting their beads or something like that, or their hair or whatever. So, because the US African Negroes, American Negroes, have hair like that, they have the right kind of hair to do that sort of stuff. It's really thick and, all that sort of stuff. If you try to do it with your thin hair, you'd probably get bald patches. Your head would start to bleed because of the weight of it, right? All that sort of stuff. Okay, and they look really good with that. Okay, they may be descendants of that particular area, but who's to say that the whole first indigenous were actually black or African black? Okay, they could have been. They may have been a mixture, hence them being called Semites. Okay, which means half, like a whole bunch of people meeting in one place, crossing each other, and wandering around the desert, whatever, raising goats, sheep, cattle, whatever they were doing, and living in tents. Okay, they might have bumped into someone else and they say, "Oh, you're a pretty good dude. Come into our tribe, be welcome into our tribe," but you have to go through all these different customs, like you have to get snip there and all that sort of stuff. Get the old circumcision and all that to remain part of this group. So these people go, "Oh yeah, we've been accepted. Okay, we don't have to wander around anymore. This is the place of plenty and friendship and all that sort of stuff." So they say, "Yeah, we'll join you," and then they meet someone else and it carries on like that. So that's why they're called Semites. They're interbred, so they're half, right? Hybrids. Okay, that's in the English. But then someone in one of these said semis. Okay, from the name Shem, right? So they were called Semi, which is spelled S-E-M-E, so we're guessing it's Semi, right? That's what they're hinting at. So we were thinking about it and we thought, okay. So if there's such a thing called anti-Semite or anti-Semi, S-E-M-E, then if it comes from one of Noah's sons called Shem, isn't that anti-Shemite? Okay, that's a tribe. Okay, Shem means that's Shem. Okay, he's the forefather. Then he has these descendants, sons and daughters who have sons and daughters who have sons and daughters, descendants of great granddaddy Shem or forefather Shem, right? So they become, because ites means people, Shemites. So wouldn't anti-Semitism be referring totally to those Shemites, not the entire Jews? Yeah, because supposedly it's an excuse that you can't say anything against them. Yeah, else you get poo-pooed for it, get in trouble for it. Yeah, so one group is using that whole concept to stop people from saying ooh and all that sort of stuff, right? Okay, puts a limit on that, but yet they can probably, or what we found, what's that guy Kramer of wasn't Friends? What's the other one? That funny program. He was the janitor or something. Kept going into the other place, Jerry Seinfeld's house or flat or whatever it was, and helping himself in the fridge. That guy was at a comedy fest or something. He was on stage and he was saying something, and this guy hassled him, a black guy hassled him. So he started calling him the N-word and all this sort of stuff, and he ends up getting kicked off that program. It wasn't Friends, it was the program Seinfeld, so long ago we've forgotten the name of it. Yeah, and then another guy said similar things and he lost his position or something like that, so it was alright for these ones to throw that at them, but we just realised if it's from, like, if we can find it here, let's see if we can find it on this person actually saying that, right? Down here somewhere. Okay, I'm not too sure exactly where it was. Might have to look in that other video. It's pretty similar to this. See if we can find it here. It's either there or here. Not really sure, but yeah, it might be here. Okay, I'm going to have a look for it. Yeah, here it is. As discussed, the Ewe language is a Semitic language. The word Semitic comes from the same name, Semi. Okay, Shem. So it comes from Shem. Okay, so it's basically a twisted rendition of Semi. S-M-I. They've changed it to S-M-E. Okay, I don't know why. They're probably to differentiate between the Semites, Jews, those in Israel today, and them, right? Change it slightly. Yeah, but here it says it's from Shem, one of Noah's sons. He came out of the ark, right? So if you called someone a Semite, you're anti-Semite. If you made fun of a Semite and you were getting accused of anti-Semitism, you were anti-Shem. Okay? Those who descended from Shem. But here, where are we again? Okay. Who are the descendants of Shem? These Hebrews, the Elamites, the Asherite or the Assyrians, the Arpachshadai, the Lothians and the Aramaeans. Not Africans. We see Africans in all of this. Okay, we see Africans. Way up here. The children of Ham were Cush. Okay, they were in Mesopotamia at the time. Mizraim, okay, in Egypt. That's Egypt, Put, and Canaan. That's where Israel, the state of Israel is today. So these were descendants or cousins or whatever of these other people. They're all related, right? So they go and attack them and kill them, all that sort of stuff. They're basically invading and killing their own relations. Think of it. Use logic and common sense. Okay? So these are separate people to these people here. They're descendants, they're all related, but they're a different group of those people, right? Okay? So here it's not saying that, let me just check that. It's supposed to be Cam. Okay. The Canaanites. Because these children of Ham were Cush in the Mesopotamia area, Mizraim, those that went to Egypt, okay, Put and Canaan. That's why the Egyptians had a Semitic language to start off with, perhaps writing from right to left, if that's how the Aramaeans and that wrote, okay, until they changed their language to a Demotic language. Or was it? They had Demotic and then they changed it to a Semitic language. Now we think they had a Semitic language and changed it to Demotic. Okay, because we have a book somewhere around here called The Timetables of History, and we believe that's what it's telling us. Okay, they wrote in a Semitic style, much like the Aramaeans, etc., who were looking for a better form of language because they had the cuneiform text, wedge type language, all that stuff. It's very hard, very difficult to write. So they wanted something different. So they might have looked at the Egyptian writing and thought, well, okay, we can adopt and adapt that. And the Egyptians were pretty much on the same level because they traded and all that sort of stuff, right? So they decided, oh, well, we change it to this Demotic language. They invented it or something like that, right? So they were all relations, weren't they? Here, it doesn't really matter what colour they were, but they're all like relations because they're all descended from, supposedly from Noah's 3 sons. Okay? They just occupied different areas and became the Ashkenazi, the Togarmah, those from Tarshish, the Kittim, probably Romans. Okay? I'm not too sure that history says something about the Kittim being Romans, and so on, right? The Egyptians and those who went into Canaan and were there for a while until the Hebrews came along. Okay, went into that land and adapted all their religion, their culture, their language, etc., etc., and their gods. Okay, so this Shem became the father of all the children of passage, which are the Hebrews. Okay? And then this Eber was born to Arpachshad, who was born to Arpachshad was born Shelah. So this son was born to Shelah. This Eber, right? And who is Arpachshad? Children of Shem. Okay? One of the children of Shem. So this Eber, 24, is literally the Hebrews. Okay? And they were called the Hebrews, they're given that name. Okay? By later peoples, because originally they were called Awur. Those who crossed over made a journey. Yeah, they crossed over, implying a passage or a journey to somewhere else, i.e. Abraham and his people picking up their belongings and all going to Canaan promised by God to Abraham, right? And on the way they stopped They went to Terah or Haran or something like that, and maybe his father died or his uncle Terah died. Okay, in Haran, something like that. Here we go. So it ends up going down into Genesis 11 or Berito 11, and it says here, and Eber lived 34 years, and to him was born a son, Peleg. And Eber's line, after Peleg was born, lasted 430 years. It doesn't mean that he lived to be 430. It's his lineage, line of descendants. And to him were born many sons and daughters. Okay, this Peleg. And Peleg lived 30 years, and to him was born Ru. So because this guy's the oldest son, he's the heir, he's the head, he's the chief of those to follow, right? Until his oldest son, okay, this guy's, Peleg's on his deathbed, he puts a hand underneath his thigh or something like that. It's one of the things they do, right, in those days. And he takes over, because he's the firstborn son. Okay, and then his lineage goes on until his firstborn son sits at his dad's bedside. He's dying, does that pledge, right, and he becomes the head, etc., etc. He's the guy that takes over, right? So it gets down to Eber. Okay, Shelah, to him was born a son, Eber. Okay, known as Awe. Yeah, where's this? We've jumped up, down a bit too far. Go back up. See? So, where is it? He was born Eber. Footnote there. 24. Aramaic name. Hebrew. Comes from this name, Awe. To cross over. Someone who crosses over, implying passage. Yeah. But the forefather of all them was Ham. Yeah. So in that it will tell you who they were. Okay. The children of Ham were Cush from Mesopotamia, Mizraim. They probably, these people, someone, his descendants, his sons' descendants, whatever, went into those lands. Okay, occupied it. Yeah, until the Hebrews came in there and occupied it. They were living in that land while these Canaanites and that Hittites, etc., were still living there, still occupying that land. They didn't go in there and kick them all out, right? Over time they probably took over, but they didn't immediately go in and go, right, get out, we're taking over, right? They dwelt there while they were still there, still living there, and did things while they were still there. Okay, and to Cush was born Nimrod in Mesopotamia, Assyria or Syria. Okay, so he's a Mesopotamian. Yeah. Then he creates a kingdom called Babylon. Erech, which is modern day Iraq, Acadia probably, and Kala in the land of Sumer, in that desert region that they will flock to build this Tower of Babel, right? And from those lands there emerged the Asherai, who built Nineveh and the towns of Rehoboth and Kala. So these who became the Egyptians were descendants of these people who followed the River Nile and then started their own tribal peoples, then became in civilization. They built the pyramids, or somebody else built the pyramids and they went there and all this stuff, right? Okay, so they were descendants of Noah, Noah's sons and daughters, right? Okay, so if you examine these, you'll find they are very incorrect in a lot of ways, or many ways. Okay, in what they say, they're trying to say that we are the originals and it all came from Africa. Okay, without knowing that, yeah, or maybe knowing that there was a big giant landmass, nothing had separated the lands yet, you know, tectonic plates shifting and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Whereas that Pan-African is telling you that. And then they're using the pictograph, okay, and putting the words into their language, claiming, like this lady is, that she is from the Ivri. Okay? The word Semitic comes from the name Shem, the son of Noah, whose descendants lived in the Middle East. Okay, his sons and daughters and their sons and daughters and their sons and daughters. Descendants lived in the Middle East. Okay. So, and then this person is saying that their language is the original language of the Yasavaravi. This is supposed to be the Israelites. See how they make these names up if it's not in the Hebrew? And if they are speaking Hebrew, as they claim, are they fluent speakers, or did they learn it from somewhere, or from someone who claimed that they could speak Hebrew and he taught them this BS version of it? Okay? Because, as we said earlier, that Rabbi Reuben went mad at them and saying, they don't know Hebrew, they're not Hebrews, they're making it all up. Didn't we just verify that through the professor or the doctor with the 3 PhDs in Aramaic, Hebrew, and possibly Syriac? Okay? So we suggest, and we'll leave a link to it underneath this video. Go have a look at Uncle John's rendition of this. Right? He explains it, yeah, in full. He likes to laugh a lot, but you can always find a rabbi or whatever that tells you the same thing on YouTube. Okay? They go deep into it. These people, yeah, we're not too sure about these people. We don't believe them anymore, right? This Hebrew or whatever the Israelite language that they're quoting, nah, we don't believe it's from the original ancient Ivri, right? Okay. Somebody's made it up, or they're learning it from somewhere, you know, the modern version of it, or a bogus version of it, or whatever. Okay. We don't believe them to be the original ancient Israelites or Hebrews unless there's some sort of proof, record, okay, that, yeah, in Mesopotamia, those areas there, that they were actually there first. Okay, because you have a look at this again, yeah, the original Genesis or Brita, from the language Lishana Atticus Prayer, okay, and here, in the lines of descendants, it tells you where they're coming from. Okay, this is a biblical record, possibly a historical record. Okay, some can dispute it and say, "Oh no, 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 no." You know, the only true version is my King James version. When was the King James version written, or revised? You know, etc. Commissioned, revised, 1611, wasn't it? You might have an earlier one, 1589 or something. Was it the Geneva Bible? They're all copies, aren't they? They're not from original manuscripts as they claim. Okay, but here's the list. If you are a God-believing, Bible-believing person, taking it literally, taking it seriously, here is your records from the original ancient, very old Tav Asher, or Aramaic, Lishana Atticus Prayer, the language God spoke to Adam and Eve in the garden, the sacred scribal language of God. Okay? Because he was chiefly only, as it says here, right, way up here, okay, there's Noah, and then there's these descendants, his 3 sons, right? And their descendants, his sons and daughters, and their descendants, and they became the fathers of the latter peoples that came around, right? From Shem came so-and-so, from Cam came so-and-so, or Ham came so-and-so, and Japheth, okay? Because supposedly, according to these texts, there's nobody else in the world. Everybody had been killed off by the flood, okay? If you believe that it's speaking of a worldwide, a totally global flood, where it wiped out everything and everybody. We believe because of historical, Mesopotamian historical records, also according to the translator, we remember him saying something about it, Victor N. Alexander from Mesopotamia, Syria, and our timetables of history, it says there were disastrous floods in Mesopotamia. Okay, the Tigris or the Euphrates overflowed, flooded the entire area, and then you have the story of Nut, where the Nile overflowed in Egypt, and this particular person built a boat or an ark and saved his people and some animals, and they supposedly found that original boat in one of the pyramids or tombs or whatever in Egypt there, maybe at Luxor, maybe at Saqqara. Yeah, they actually found the whole boat. Yeah, so they had a similar happening. in their area, their geographical location, i.e. Egypt, not the whole world. Okay? Either that's a true story, it actually happened with this newt and his people, or it's a mythical, and somebody just created the boat. Okay? So it's all there. So yeah, we are going to say, hey, these guys, okay, this movement, Hebrew Israelite, is fake. Okay, and you can come at us and we will research it even more and find you the evidence.